South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham sits on both the Senate Judiciary Committee and the Senate Armed Services Committee. I spoke with him earlier. I want to start by asking you about some troubling information we're getting this morning about a Russian sub now 30 miles off the coast in Connecticut. What's going on?
Well, I think Russia is testing the Trump administration. You had deployment of cruise missiles that are in violation of the START treaty. You have Russia increasing violence in eastern Ukraine through their proxies. You have them buzzing ships, and now you have naval vessels off our coast. So they're pushing and testing President Trump, and so are the Chinese, so are the North Koreans, and so are the Iranians.
All right, so how does this then coordinate or contrast with these allegations that the president and those close to him are way too close to Russia? They're too big of fans of Vladimir Putin and others. I mean, this seems a bit contradictory that they're now sort of pushing the envelope.
Well, let me just say this about Russia. President Bush, 43, miscalculated Putin big time. Obama was weak and naive when it came to Russia. And quite frankly, I think the Trump administration has been slow to get where Russia's coming from. Maybe this will help them understand that Russia's no friend to democracy in the United States. That's why I've got new Russian sanctions to punish them more for their interference in our election. And I hope this is a wake-up call to President Trump.
Well, and reportedly it was a discussion of sanctions that ended up leading to the events that cost Michael Flynn his job as national security advisor to the president. What would it take for you to step up to these calls by Democrats, by folks on the left, that they want some kind of independent outside investigation or a joint select committee? What would it take for you, do you think it's appropriate, to have that level of investigation?
Not yet. Here's what I'm looking at. The Flynn situation. It's not a crime for General Flynn to talk with the Russian ambassador about sanctions. It was inappropriate because we do have a one president at a time policy, and it would violate that policy. So it's not covering up a crime, it's probably covering up an embarrassing political engagement. But what is new and what disturbs me the most is accusations from a newspaper, which could be flat wrong, so I'm not going to base my decision on a newspaper report, that there was collaboration between the Trump campaign and Russian intelligence officials. Now, was this outside the norm? Was this something damaging to the country? I don't know. But if there were contacts between Russian officials and Trump campaign operatives that was inappropriate, then it would be time for the Congress to form a joint select commission to get the bottom of all things Russia and Trump.
Okay, now to the point of what happened with Michael Flynn, here is what your counterpart there, one of your colleagues across the aisle, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, has to say about what kind of investigation he wants to see.
If an investigation is not independent, nonpartisan, and most of all transparent, there's no guarantee this administration will take the decisive and immediate actions necessary to keep our country safe.
He has also said that Attorney General Jeff Sessions should recuse himself. He's too close to all the players involved, and he should not take part in any investigation. Meanwhile, we have the president tweeting this Russian connection nonsense is merely an attempt to cover up the many mistakes made in Hillary Clinton's losing campaign. He also adds Crimea was taken, all caps, by Russia during the Obama administration. Was Obama too soft on Russia? What advice, what counsel would you give to the president about how he publicly handles these concerns that many people on both sides of the aisle have about potential conflicts with Russia?
Embrace the fact that there's a cloud growing over your presidency when it comes to Russia. Call on Congress in a bipartisan fashion to get to the bottom of any contacts between Trump campaign operatives and Russian intel officials. If it is all a misunderstanding, they're innocent contacts, let's get to the bottom of it, clear the president and move on. I want to help this man govern the country, cut taxes, repeal and replace Obamacare, and rebuild the military. But I would say this to the president: until somebody looks at this outside your administration, it's going to be hanging over you and your administration, and we need to get it behind us one way or the other. If there were Trump officials, campaign officials, collaborating with the Russians, that is a big-time bad move on their part, and I want to punish Russia for interfering in our campaign even more aggressively than I do today. And any Trump person who collaborated with the Russians, if they did, they should be punished.
All right, Senator, super quick, we're out of time, but I want to ask you about this idea of leaks. This information came from somewhere. It got to these newspapers from someone. Do you think it's within the intelligence community? Where does it come from? How concerned are you about that?
Incredibly concerned that this White House and people around the White House are leaking conversations between the president and foreign leaders, leaking classified information to the media on a regular basis. Part of the investigation that I'm talking about should include who's leaking, and they should be punished. It's not fair to the president for him to be treated this way. But the bottom line here is that we should have a joint select committee if there's any credibility to the accusation that campaign officials for Trump interacted with the Russians inappropriately.
All right, we'll track it closely. Senator Graham, great to see you.